Welcome back to page 121, and welcome to Dragon number 105, 40 years ago, January 1986. And inside for our $3, we are promised a D&D game adventure, a look at invisibility, and playing on parallel worlds. I dog-eared the heck out of this issue because of the invisibility. We'll get into that in a little bit. Okay, we open it up. Back it up just a little bit. There we go. Okay. Strike the First Blow. Warrior Knight from Games Workshop. Only $24.95. That was actually a pretty expensive little item in 1986. $25 was a little high for any kind of board game. Games Workshop, of course, out of England. They're still around. Space Master, The Challenge of the Future Awaits from Iron Crown Enterprises. I liked Space Master's universe. I did not care for the mechanics, as I've said many, many times on the channel. So for January of 86, we have our table of contents. We've got our info on the cover. I always like this cover, by the way. The mage casting a lightning bolt into some type of dire bat or something, with another one coming up, a couple more coming up. So we have a look at our table of contents. Then we have the letters to the editor, and then an editorial for Paul. I'm assuming Paul Montgomery Crayball, unfortunately passed about 40 years ago, it looks like. I'm not familiar with the gentleman's work. The World Gamer's Guide. If you're traveling around the world in 1986, this is your opportunity to find like-minded gamers. And then we have an ad for Pendragon. Chivalric role-playing in Arthur's Britain. The game of quest, romance, and adventure. And this is brought to us by Chaosium out of Albany, California. And then we have the forum, which is kind of an enhanced letters to the editor. And then we have a Dragonlance Legends ad. I did read Dragonlance. I read it for the first several years it came out. Legends was actually better than the original trilogy, in my opinion. It follows Raistlin and his brother Cameron, Caramon as they go to further adventures. The Time of the Twins. Long ago, everything you ever imagined was all very real. Time Life Books introduces The Enchanted World. These things were pretty good back in the day. We had no internet, so this was a way we could find out stuff about old legends and things like that. And this is from our friends at Time Life Books. And here's a little leaflet we could tear out and send in for our Time Life book. And they're out of Chicago, Illinois. Let's see. I would like to examine Wizards and Witches free for 10 days. Send me future volumes under terms described in this ad. Then we have Lehman's Tiny Hut by Len Kafka. Tone down the demi-humans. So he wants the demi-humans as presented in Unearthed Arcana to be brought back down a little bit. Len Kafka, passed away a few years ago, was very much into how D&D had been up to and prior to Unearthed Arcana. Not entirely, but he was not a huge fan of stuff after UA. Up to and including UA. Gods of Harn, the Librum of the Pantheon. And this is from Columbia Games in Blaine, Washington. Gods of Harn. I had Harn. I had a couple of the books for that back a million years ago. Continuing out our article on demi-humans, we have Daredevils, Have Adventures from Fantasy Games Unlimited. These guys are out of Roslyn, New York, if I'm not mistaken. And they brought us Space Opera. Yours free with membership, the Dragon Riders of Pern. Any four for $1 with any membership in the Science Fiction Book Club. Yes, I was in the Science Fiction Book Club a lot, all the way into the 90s. Got my hardcover copy of I Am Legend out of these guys. Travel works both ways. PCs on the road will meet many fellow wayfarers. And we have a nice little list of who you can meet while you're traveling down the road. I always liked anything that would gussy up over road travel. It's just something that's wasn't real detailed in AD&D, and I like it. And then we finish out our article there, and we go to Axis and Allies from Milton Bradley. Strategy game for you. Finishing up our article on traveling, Right On. And here's how they want you to send your letter to the Dragon. Star Trek Ship Recognition Manuals from FASA in Chicago, Illinois. Know your enemy. this was before Next Generation came out. A little over a year later, we would get Next Gen. So this was for the original series and the movies. The first 4 movies. Seeing is Believing. Examining the 3 varieties of invisibility. I dog-eared the heck out of this article because invisibility was a tough one for us for a long time at our table. It was, or it is, an illusion. You're not really invisible. And I had played with several comic book fans, and we all took exception to that. We wanted this to be like it was in the comic books with the invisible woman turning invisible and turning other people invisible. So we changed it in our table. Our table, it was not illusion. You were actually invisible. And I know the whole thing, how do you get light to your eyes to see? Well, we handwave that because, magic. World Action and Adventure, the universal system for realistic role-playing. I'm not familiar with this guy. WNA Book of Animals and Geography. No, I don't know these guys. Interesting. Was this, Don't know. Finishing out our invisibility. Lots of Q&A on invisibility. I like that. Choose your weapons and your armor and shield. You're ready to fight man to man from Steve Jackson Games, Austin, Texas. The rest of the paper is cleaning up a few odds and ends about centaurs from an earlier issue. And we have an ad for Lands of Adventure from our good friends at Fantasy Games Unlimited, Roslyn, New York. A full-page ad for Traveler, Role-Playing the Future. The Spinward Marches campaign. It was brand new in '86. We were heading into Mega Traveler in a little over another year. I love Traveler. Game Designers Workshop out of Bloomington, Illinois. The Roll of Books, Fantasy and SF Literature of Interest to Gamers. So just a quick review of some books that you might want to read. The Quest is Over for Fantasyware. And this is brought to us by... Is this TSR? Fantasyware is the name of the company, Waukesha, Wisconsin. So most likely some kind of branch of TSR. Continuing on our book reviews, we get to Fantastic Treasures. We're the other company, Mayfair Games in Niles, Illinois. I had quite a few of their things. There was some pretty nice stuff in there. You could take it out and add it to your campaign. Mayfair had some good stuff. I had Fantastic Treasures 1, I think. And then we go to the Well-Equipped Victim, a treasure type system for 0-level encounters. 0-level encounters, I just always kind of hand wave those, and you'd find, 2 gold pieces worth of various coins, and that would pretty much be it. But something like this is pretty interesting. Gems for Death, for the Companions, out of Bath, Maine. 3 modular adventures for all fantasy game systems. Not familiar with them either. By '86, I had changed jobs a couple of times I changed jobs twice in '86, and by mid '86 I was in a more stable job, but it was a weird one. I traveled around all of Cook County, which if you don't live in the Chicagoland area, you'll realize that Cook County is huge, and I traveled around there and did various things for a company I worked for. Continuing out, our goods we can find on Travelers, and then we have Dawn of the Ancients, Earthwood. And this is a fantasy world strategic play-by-mail out of Miami, Florida. The Mechanoids. They came from a distant star with one burning desire to destroy all human life. Only you can stop them. And the Mechanoids is interesting. I don't remember this one either. And these guys are from Palladium out of Detroit, Michigan. Continuing on, the stuff you can get from 0-level encounters. Believe in Magic, Bard Games, where fantasy becomes reality. Fantasy role-playing supplements for the experienced gamer. I never encountered those. Label Your Letter. By early '86, I had that club that I had been part of kind of dissolved. There were only a handful of members left by that point. Unfortunately, a lot of us got jobs and other things that interfered with being able to attend even a monthly club. And I was pretty much done with it. So, kind of an interesting time in my gaming. Label Your Letter for Dragon Magazine. A World of Difference. The parallel concept expands gaming horizons. So, if you want to go to a parallel prime material plane, which I have done in gaming, it can be a lot of fun. You can change around whatever you want. You can have a world where giants used to be the main power, or Elves are still a main power, have a massive empire, anything like that. It can be a lot of fun. The Chaos Wars have broken out from Realpartha Enterprises. Cincinnati, Ohio. Realpartha's Chaos Wars is a novel concept in which different and seemingly unrelated elements of the fantasy world can come together. Interesting. Realpartha. I don't think I have any of these minis that are depicted. Continuing on our article, and we go to At Last the Real Thing, Advanced Dungeons & Dragons minis. The D&D minis were kind of interesting. They were a little late to the table. There were so many minis out by this time, by 86. $4.50 per pack was also a little pricey. I probably have a few of these in my collection, but not a ton. And then continuing out, our various other worlds, and you can go to Gamma World and Boot Hill. That's right in the DMG if you want. And we tried mixing Gamma World and D&D. It doesn't work. Gamma World's way too lethal for low-level D&D characters, and you have way too many hit points to have a Gamma World character in D&D. We have a dragon for you. Realpartha's famous collection of dragons. The Cold Drake, the Blue Drake, Black, and the Golden. I have the Golden from Rathbone Company in Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. I like that gold. Painted by my player Mike. Continuing out our article, and then we go to Archive, Miniatures, the Baby Dragons, 102 and 103. I am not familiar with these guys. Betrayed, an AD&D game adventure for characters of levels 3 to 5. I do remember reading this, and it's for 4 to 8 player characters, levels 3 to 5. I do remember reading this. I don't usually use pre-printed adventures. I have, of course, but I usually will just write up my own stuff. We have an ad here for Amazing Stories, March of 86, now a TV series. You get the March issue. Just send to Amazing Stories, Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. That was when TSR was publishing Amazing Stories. And it was a TV series. You get the player's map for our module. We have an ad for Dragon Magazine. This, of course, is from TSR. Hobby Shop, the mail order Hobby Shop out of Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Back issues of the Dragon. The DM's map of the adventure. And you'll be amazed by the tales we'll tell you in Amazing Stories. There we go, Amazing Stories. And then we finish out our adventure. We go to Illuminati for Adventure Systems, Houston, Texas. That was Steve Jackson Games. And the Duncan Company, giving us a chance to make new molds and 100 fantastic characters out of Calvert, Texas. They advertised Dragon for a long time. Spy's Advice for Top Secret. I like this. Top Secret second edition came out in 87 or 88. It's Point Blank, the Complete Strategist, a series of game stores that were around on the East Coast of the United States back in the 80s. Some of them are still there, I understand. I've never been in any of them. And then we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness for Heroes Unlimited. And this is and Heroes Unlimited. Palladium Books out of Detroit, Michigan. After the Bomb is another offering. And then we have Hobby and Gaming Accessories, Armory Paints. I loved Armory Paints. They were really good paints. I think they're still around. And let's see, where would I have gotten them? Granite City, which is well west of me. I've never been there. Prospect Games Plus, I've been there many, many times. Interesting. Previews, what's coming out in early 86 from TSR. We have some Dragonlance stuff shipping, the trilogies, Dragons of Glory. We have Marvel Superheroes, Secret Wars 2, awful comic series. Barbarossa, game of the Russo-German War, 41 to 45. Terrible Swiss Sword, 3 Days of Gettysburg game. A6 player character sheet records, I still use those. Master of Ravenloft. And based on the classic I6 adventure for Ravenloft, the game book lets you roleplay the vampire. And then OA1, Swords of the Daimyo for Oriental Adventures, and B10, Night's Dark Terror for Basic and Expert. Or, let's see, bridge the gap between D&D Basic Set and D&D Expert. And then we go to Destiny of Kings, AD&D. I have that one. CM7, The Tree of Life. No, The Inheritance. I don't know that one. Knave of Hearts, Dragon Sword of Lankmar. one-on-one game book, amazing stories, and then a price increase. Yes, they did actually pop us for the price increase. And then a profile for Kim Moen. He was an editor for Dragon and a contributor for a long, long time. On the Rocks at Slabs, some fiction. Don't remember reading this particular one. Looks like it's fantasy-oriented. Star Frontiers, Zebulon's Guide to Frontier Space. That was a kind of a game changer. It was a seismic shift for Star Frontiers, but it was also kind of the last gasp from TSR on Star Frontiers. Zebulon's Guide to Frontier Space from TSR. Products of your imagination. The Ares Science Fiction Gaming section. There we go. The Serpent Squad. They were in Captain America at the time. Its own table of contents and editorial. This the Serpent Society on the cover. Rites of Passage. Initiations for the Gamma World Cryptic Alliances. I love Cryptic Alliances in Gamma World. I use the heck out of some of this. Some Refuse to Die in the Aftermath from Fantasy Games Unlimited. The Marvel File. Why does it have to be snakes? There we go. All the different snake characters that were appearing in Captain America at the time. An ad for Villains and Vigilantes. Oh, wait. Villains and Variants. Optional rules for Villains and Vigilantes Gaming. And an ad for V&V from Fantasy Games Unlimited. First superhero role-playing game I ever played shortly after I started playing D&D was Villains and Vigilantes. We played it for a while, and then about a year or so, and then we got Champions, and I never went back. The Big Guns, the Armed Forces, and the Marvel Superheroes game. I used to read these articles just for inspiration in Champions. I did play some Marvel Superheroes. And then we had an ad for Flashing Blades, another game offered by Fantasy Games Unlimited. Expanding the Frontier, exploring new worlds in the Star Frontiers universe. Very good stuff for any science fiction game. You're in outer space, so you could adapt any of this or play Star Frontiers. The Art of War, Battle System First Edition. Yike. It's a shame it wasn't as good as it should have been. Then we have a convention calendar, various conventions you could go to if you could go back to 1986. Stuck for a minute there. Strategy and Tactics ad from Dragon Publishing. And then we have the other end of the card for Dragon Publishing. Subscribe to Dragon Magazine and save. That's its own little card. Gamer's Guide, kind of personal ads for gaming. The index to advertisers, the end of the forum. Letters. Wormy. There's Wormy. Dave Trampier. 2 pages of Wormy this time. Dragon Mirth. Always enjoyed Dragon Mirth. I did miss Phil and Dixie, though. And then StarQuest. Larry Elmore. StarQuest ran a long time in Dragon. It's fun or it's free. At West End, we only publish great games. You'll agree or your money back. West End Games, New York, New York. I played a little bit of the Star Trek. I played the Paranoia from West End Games and their Star Wars. Their Star Wars was a lot of fun. And then the back ad, Space Master. The challenge of the future awaits. I liked the universe of Space Master. They did some really nice stuff there. The game system from ICE was very, very clumsy. So there you have it. Dragon number 105 presented to you from January 1986, 40 years ago. What were you doing then? I know what I was doing. I was in a new job, and it was a strange time in my life, but I was engaged, and it was just a weird time, but a good time. I do remember 86, and I remember it fondly. But that's all I've got to say today on page 121. I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. Please leave any comments below. Please leave the comments as constructive. I've had some kind of nasty comments in the last month or so that I will just delete every time, and I don't want to do that. I try to make this a channel just a fun place where people can go and relax and talk about gaming a little bit. So please leave your comments as constructive, and I'll leave them alone. But that's all I've got to say today on page 121. Thank you for your time. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.